All right, guys, welcome back. We are live. This is volume number 3, and it's amazing. It's already quarter 3 here, which means more pressure on us to execute and to keep delivering product updates and stuff like that. So I think it's important we have our community call here, building Wootopia, to kind of get everybody filled in. So what I'm going to do is start letting people up as hosts to maybe talk, and then we'll start. As we begin, maybe we can have Julia run off some stats from the community, just as people join the conversation.
Sure. Hi, everybody. It's Julia here. Probably you know me from trade communities and Telegram, regional communities. So over this quarter 2, I was overseeing our development of social networks and our regional growth. So I have some amazing stats here to share with you. We put really lots of effort in growing our regional markets and translating and sharing information about Wootrade to different communities who speak different languages. So what we saw, our traffic to the official website grew from 33,000 unique users in quarter 1 to 55,000 users in quarter 2, which means it grew 40%. Now, our total following from all the channels and all the social medias are 40,000 people. So thanks a lot for following us. Thanks a lot for being interested in the project. Thanks a lot for being interested in our news and updates.
It really means a lot.
Really, really, thank you. All right, now talking about our regional communities, we saw some drastic traffic increase from Russian-speaking community and Indian community. The traffic from these countries increased over 100%. For Russian community, it was 180%. Means like it's incredible. Thank you all the guys for speaking Russian here.
I think Russia tends to be a very trader-focused community, right? So I think that that makes a lot of sense, and that's something we need to adjust for, as we go forward, how to really target these regions.
So don't be shy. Join our regional Telegram groups. We're very open and free to chat there. We saw huge growth from Spain, Indonesia, Poland, and France. Of course, our English-speaking community grew over 50% in this quarter. And the last thing, a huge shout out for our Turkish community and Vietnamese community. We have really good supportive teams there who stayed with us from the very beginning. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I think this is one of the key reasons why we always knew we were very strong in Europe, especially in regions like the Netherlands, where there's always been a big following. So, obviously we had to move this call to a time zone that was more convenient for people in Europe to ask us questions. It's quite late out here in Asia. You'll be able to see in the YouTube stream. It's pretty dark behind us, but that's what we have to do, right? We sacrifice dinner. We sacrifice time with their families. We sacrifice that. We'd sacrifice our own body parts if that's what it came to. But yeah, we're very keen to explore these unique regions, and that's one of the challenges that the crypto community offers, in that I guess it's a lot like the tech community, and where each region it's very different, very unique, and not just in terms of regulations, but in terms of the go-to-market strategies that you need. And that's also an opportunity, because a lot of other projects haven't really capitalized on this by getting really deep market penetration in these regions. And so that's something we really want to do. So we're very encouraged by these metrics we're seeing, especially in regions where maybe you don't have such tight regulations. I guess we should say more clear regulatory environments, right? Where we know what we're getting into, we know what we have to do to be compliant. And that's a huge thing for the company, right? Because obviously, the regulatory environment is very complex, but we want to be constantly growing and expanding without, being on the run. I don't think anyone wants to be, a vigilante on the run, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to get that clear in case. All right, so I think we're a few minutes in here. We've got a lot of people who have joined, which is encouraging. If anyone has any early questions for us, again, the point here is not just to be like an AMA, because those they have their uses, but we also want to get feedback from everybody, because as part of a growing decentralized community, it's very important to have everyone's voices heard. So even if you just want to say hi. I think you're doing a great job, or I think you're doing a terrible job. You need to do better on this. Like we're happy to entertain like all sorts of comments, as well as questions. I think I've invited Ran. For those of you who don't know, he is the chief operating officer of both Wootrade and Kronos, and he can help out on some of the more difficult questions. I think he has one of the strongest insights from a trading perspective, as well as being based in Asia, but his background in America, obviously. He understands the global macro market structure as well as anyone. So I think it's a good opportunity to get him engaged and involved with everyone out there. I like to answer questions, but that's not really a rare treat since I'm usually doing it in the Telegrams and Discords. Which reminds me, by the way, the Discord channel, the server, it's been online now for a couple of weeks, I want to say, and we've already have over 1,000 members. Discord's just great because you can organize it a lot better than Telegram into different channels and languages, and it's a bit more fun, I think, in that community, just the way the gifts are set up and you can kind of respond to certain posts. So I do encourage you to go there and get involved if you haven't already. That's probably my favorite place to hang out. Yeah, sure. So I guess, does anyone have any questions? I'm all ears if we want to get this started. I'm sure there are plenty of questions considering where we are and all the products that are launched or launching or about to be launched. Let's see, we got our first request here. And I'll add you as a speaker. It's hard to host both from a technology side and from a speaking side, but we'll do the best we can. I think Woo Insider, you're up now. Let me know if you can hear us.
Beautiful, thanks Ben. I can. Love your work. Just had a quick question. So regarding recently Binance in the UK, it had a bit of a debacle with its futures and locking everyone's funds for a bit, obviously because CZ is a bit of a relaxed when it comes to the regulatory side. Would you say Wootrade or Woo itself is sort of and Kronos taking a more conservative approach, expanding around the world? So you really want to become regulatory compliant everywhere? And would you say that's going to slow to a more progressive pace than what Binance did around the world?
Well, thank you for the kind words. I think this is definitely something Rand could answer very well. I've invited him up on stage, but it looks like he hasn't connected yet. I could probably go ahead. I think that obviously anytime there's like regulatory crackdowns, no matter who it's against, it's a bad thing, right? Because it means that it's becoming harder for the industry to grow, right? I mean, obviously these are growing pains that need to happen, but we don't want to see like our competitors, or I shouldn't call them competitors, the other players, we don't want to see them getting struck down, especially ones that are very innovative. Like we consider Binance to be very innovative, and they do amazing things for this industry. And they really trailblaze. And like you can see even the things like SBF does where he's naming arenas. This is very good for crypto in the long term in terms of what Mike Novogratz says, getting people in the tent, right? He refers to getting people inside the industry. So we want this industry to grow very quickly, exponentially, right? Because that just means we can service a broader region, both from like a B2B side and then also on the B2C. In terms of anything that affects Binance, down the road that will also affect us, right? We're not immune from it just because we're not in the position they are now. I guess the good thing is it does give us clarity a bit more on like which regions we can't go into and which regions we can. And I think that's the approach going forward based on the eavesdroppings that I've done in the strategy meetings with the legal teams. We have quite a big legal team. I think there's 3 to 4 in-house, and then we also have external counsel, and we're always looking at more external counsel. And the general idea is, instead of just having this complete global approach and then you just blacklist a few countries like the US or China as things get, negative there, and then, wait for trouble to catch up on you, we're definitely going to try to identify regions where we know that we're compliant. And then we're really going to, focus on those regions really hard, right? And so this would be more of a whitelist approach is opposed to like a blacklist approach. So we're going to whitelist certain regions, and we're really going to go hard in there. And I think that's a better strategy, right? I think we're in a better position than other exchanges who, they have very tight maybe budget limitations or experience or resources. So they have to acquire users very quickly and wherever they can. So you kind of have more of like a spray and pray type strategy, right? But I think we have much more of a strategic team. We have much more resources around the world, and we can really, do this in a logical and compliant sort of way. So I guess that would be my approach on it. And it's a great question. I'm glad you brought it up at the beginning. Maybe Rand, if you have something you want to add, because obviously as a C-level, you probably have better insights into this than I do. Let me see if Rand is oh, he's a speaker. Great. Rand, if you want to jump in there.
Sorry, my connection wasn't very good earlier. I think the question was about compliance.
It was just about, yeah. I mean, if you didn't hear my answer, it was probably sufficient, right? But it was just about like the Binance thing and how we see that, affecting the exchange business globally and us.
Right. I think you answered. I think you answered it well. Mm-hmm. I mean, generally the world is becoming more regulated in terms of crypto, and I think it's a good thing because what exchanges and just I think crypto business in general fear the most is lack of clarity and regulatory changes. So then if the attitude is very clear from the regulators, then at least the businesses can evolve around that, right? And we intend to be compliant in anywhere where we will have users, and that's in DeFi, CeFi and DeFi. I think regulations are coming for DeFi as well. It just takes time for them to kind of catch on and understand what's going on. And I think there are ways to comply in terms of DeFi as well. So we have a team now that's looking at the regulations for every country, and we'll be actively aim to be compliant for each jurisdiction. And we will probably even reach out to regulators, right, and be ahead and try to understand what they're thinking before the regulations are announced.
Yeah, that's great. That's what I wanted to hear, is that Binance seems to expand first, and then they expand quickly, break things, and then either fix them or just pull out of the country. Whereas from my feeling from Woo is you're not trying to, Binance is not a competitor, but you go in compliant and then adapt as the rules change rather than go in and then work out if you are compliant. So that's great to hear. Thanks for the answer.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to hear your voice because we've seen your character on Twitter from time to time, but now we have a voice behind it. So thank you for the support and thank you for the question. Jason, you're up. Did you have a question for us tonight?
Yeah, hi Ben, and thanks for hosting. I guess my question is, obviously, I think most people in this space kind of realize the potential of Woo and excited for the future. But I guess my question's around, what do you consider are the main sort of challenges in achieving the potential, and what kind of are the main risks to perhaps not achieving that in the long run?
Thanks for the question, Jason. Rand, do you want to jump in on this one, or should you let me take a stab at it?
Okay. Yeah, I can try. The challenges, well, there are many challenges, I think. And one of the things that, we're always thinking about the future, right, what's coming. So I think a lot of the industry changes very fast. And I think every business, especially businesses that are growing, have to be very flexible in adapting to the changes. And the competitive landscape for each sub industry within crypto is not very stagnant, right? Whether it's regulatory changes or new technologies such as DeFi or something else, it could always alter kind of the competitive landscape. So always thinking about what's coming, like what does the future look like in 2 years, 5 years? Although it's very difficult to predict, and we're going to tune the product or the the BD, the marketing, or the legal strategy according to a lot of those changes. So there's constantly a lot of challenges. I mean, more recently in terms of regulations, but just in terms of the products that are coming out in the CeFi and DeFi space, and how, I mean, the interactions between DeFi as both kind of like a competitor to CeFi for exchanges, and oftentimes can work hand in hand. Like we're taking a more cooperative approach with just other exchanges in general, and also in DeFi, right? We think we're trying to link all the liquidity together between CeFi and DeFi and across different chains. So I think for us, it's a very cooperative approach, and the challenge there is to actually physically do it, right? To be able to be set up on Polygon, BSC, ETH, to link up all the centralized exchange liquidity, to BD all the customers, the clients for Wootrade, and eventually to have this huge network of liquidity, and then to offer the best, zero fees and the cheapest liquidity to everyone, right? That's the overall mission, and it's a difficult task because it involves convincing everyone to join the network. It involves technical competence and trading competence to do what we're trying to do, and still offer zero fees. It involves a lot of blockchain tech in an industry that's changing every single day, such as DeFi. So that all is very challenging, and now it's more now, and the restraints are kind of the regulations and how to be compliant at the same time, right? So it's very challenging, but we enjoy it, and we think the mission will benefit our users, will benefit the community, and will go towards our goals of zero fee trading for everyone, right? So then that's what we're kind of fighting for, and there's a ton of challenges, but it's a very enjoyable process.
Yeah, I think Jason, if I could jump in and just add, like, some of the the smaller challenges is, like, the bigger ones are obviously there in terms of growing the industry, getting into regulatory situations that are compliant. But then, like, even smaller challenges, like with the product, right? We're trying to build things very quickly that are secure and valuable to users, right? Because we're always under a lot of pressure from the community to deliver faster on more products. But then there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that maybe people in the community don't realize. And I think one of those that we could bring up is like the automatic withdrawals. Like, this is a situation that we've seen a few people in the community who have tried to withdraw. And they want faster withdrawals. But, like, withdrawals that are automatic, the faster they are, it's like the more the security risk is, right? Because if there was somebody who was able to, like, access funds on the on the exchange, then they would be able to get them off faster, which is what you want to avoid. So we looked at what's out there in the space, and, like, Bybit, theirs is done manually a few times a day. And we're developing with a number of different teams, a financial team, a risk team, like a cybersecurity team, a process that will allow this to happen. And it will have the correct triggers for when, there might be fraud, or there might be, like a hack or an exploit, and it will identify it, as it happens before any, funds are lost, right? So this is, like, what some people from the outside would see as, like, a very, very small thing, right? Just speed up the withdrawals. That's all you got to do, right? But it's actually something that, if something really big was to happen, that could, like, cripple a company, even of our size, right? If we were to lose a large amount of funds. So there's a number of things we can do, from diversifying the risk, right? And we do that. and then just coming up with technological solutions and then testing them and then making sure everything's in place. So there's a lot going on, and I hope that answers your question. Maybe you went a little more detailed than you were looking for, but yeah.
No, that's really useful. Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Jason. Anyone else have a question for us? I notice some other new faces here in the crowd.
Sure, I do. First of all, thanks, Ben and Ran. I have two questions, probably one for each of you. Ben, marketing standpoint, it's been pretty organic as of late. I'm just wondering what the plan is, kind of a year out. Are we spending more money in ads? What's the overall team plan on marketing? And then Ran, for you, I would love to just have any insight into the DeFi space as a decentralized exchange, a swap platform. Is that going to be zero fee as well, or what might that look like? Thanks, guys.
All right, Chris, those are good questions, and good talking to you as always. I'll go ahead and take the first one about marketing, right? I mean, this is something we talked about at the beginning. I don't know if everyone was here, but each region presents a unique opportunity and its unique challenges. And what we've seen from a lot of exchanges or trading platforms is they don't have the resources to really develop a go-to-market strategy for each region. So they get a kind of blanket approach, and it's very effective in some regions, but not very effective in others, right? So, we do have a bit more resources. As our links to Kronos Research, we know a lot of platforms all over the world, right? And we know a lot of projects all over the world. So we're going to work very closely, whether it's with projects or platforms or any sort of media or communities in these regions to develop a unique strategy. Does that mean we're going to be plastering ads all over CoinGecko? Probably not at the beginning. Are we going to be buying NBA arenas? I don't know if that's going to happen right away either. But we have a very niche crowd that we're looking for, right? We want traders at the beginning who are very high volume. They appreciate what the platform offers, which is zero fees, best liquidity. And we're going to cater to them at first, right, to really get them on board. And a lot of that could even be in like more of a B2B marketing type situation, which isn't exactly, something that might be out in the open, but connecting with trading communities in these regions and talking to them one-on-one, right? This could be more of something that is going on. And then I think, long term, as we develop more, a more well-rounded product, we might, pivot towards a more open market strategy. So I think that's kind of what's going on. But obviously, it's so dynamic. Things are changing so quickly. Like new regions like Vietnam in the past 2 years has exploded as a crypto community, right? And so you have to take all these things into consideration when you're developing these plans. And we're definitely not going to do all this work, develop all these products, build this huge community, and then just we'll not bother with the marketing, right? We're going to do some stuff there. It's just finding the balance between useful marketing that targets our niche user base, and then everything else. So I think that's kind of the plan.
Hi, Chris. Regarding DeFi, I can't really reveal much at this time. I mean, we don't have an official product or anything, but we are, I think we're very bullish on DeFi, obviously, and the Wootopia pools are, they've experienced a minor success, and we've set up on a variety of venues now, right? So on 0x, on DYDX, we're bringing some of the flow from DYDX to Wootrade, and also you'll see Polygon Wootopia pools pretty soon. That's kind of what we're talking about publicly now. But in terms of when you're talking about a DEX, I mean, this is something that we've thought about, obviously, and I think anything that we create, the aim will always be the cheapest liquidity. So, I mean, we're going to lower fees. If we create a DEX, we would try to lower fees to as low as possible. I mean, on the Wootopia pools on BSC, the fees are about 10 basis points, which is a lot lower than 10 basis points for the large for the majors, right? So Bitcoin, BNB, ETH. So we'll try to continue to lower that, and we'll try to lower it to as low as possible. So that's always been an ongoing effort. So if we were to make a product in DeFi, then you can expect that. We're also looking at a variety of other aspects of decentralized trading, such as cross-chain. If you were to be able to execute, how do you execute trades cross-chain, right, at a very cheap price? So things like that. So we're looking at a variety of things in the DeFi space, and the whole idea is to be able to more effectively connect the DeFi liquidity across chains, and to also connect that with CeFi liquidity.
Yeah, and that question's come up a few times, not just about DeFi, but also like futures. In the future, if we have like a derivatives products, will they also be zero fee? This isn't something that we can promise straight away. But like from every conversation I've had with people, whether they're on the product team or they're on like the management team, like it's always the goal is to get the fees as close to zero or low, just as cheap as possible. So I think you'll always be getting a cheaper product, cheaper liquidity, with a Wootrade product than you would anywhere else, right? And that's, as long as we keep doing that, then we have a good chance at gaining market share.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. We don't have anyone else on stage, so if anyone has a question, you'll get right on. No questions asked.
I have another question in the meantime until someone else comes up with something. Ben, you said something interesting there where I can see this with the direction Woo is taking with the recent decrease in staking rewards. It isn't aimed at these small traders. It doesn't have an impact on the ecosystem. It's the people holding millions of Woo. Would you say that, without using the term such as trickle down success rewards, if you get a lot of big clients on and the platform's built towards big clients, the more successful that is, the better it is for the little guys. So the platform, you'll get benefits as the little people because it's doing so well with big institutional traders. So would you say, they get, there's more chance to get products or less fees, better staking, things like that? Would you say the success of Woo is really driven by the big players, and in the future we're looking at littler players getting more of the piece of the pie?
Ryan, do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, you're closer to the B2B side than I am.
Right. I think you're right in that there's a trickling down approach. Our first customers are the to-B clients, which are mostly exchanges. They still dominate the volume the total network volume currently, but DeFi and WooX volumes are rising. I mean, total volumes are not high currently, but in percentage of total crypto volume, we're still steadily rising because crypto volume has kind of dropped off a cliff since the downturn, last month. I mean, we do want to satisfy the needs of those who care the most about zero fees and deep liquidity, and it tends to be sort of the bigger players, right? The guys who trade the most, the guys who have a lot of capital and are trading large sizes, they tend to care about zero fees and deep liquidity more than the average trader. But that being said, we do have this trickle down approach. So we start off with the 2B clients, and now it's more the independent traders, though they're larger in size, day traders. I mean, I think the average WooX beta user trades about $50K to $100K per day, the ones who are trading. So that's actually a pretty decent size in terms of daily volume. So it's moving towards these guys. And I think eventually we're going to hit everybody. I mean, right now, everyone gets the benefits on UX, right? I mean, you'll see more yield type of products later that benefits everyone. And the whole purpose for UX base yields lowering is, I think, as we've explained before, the whole inflation factor. And we're going to introduce more sustainable yields in the future. I mean, the idea is to have everyone, to fulfill some of the basic needs that people have in crypto, which are one, to trade at the lowest cost possible, and this is more a need for the active large traders, and then the need to optimize yield, and this is a need that everyone has, right? And you'll see some of that later, whether it's like the airdrop, the Woo Ventures airdrops, or it's other types of asset management type of products or votes. That's coming later, but we're tackling the liquidity problem first.
Great, thanks.
All right, we got Wuhan up here. Maybe he would like to throw a question at us.
Hey guys, appreciate your time this morning. My question is right in line with that last answer a little bit, probably some overlap, but we saw some changes in the specifically closed beta staking situation once it went to open beta. And I guess I'm selfishly asking if any of us early adopters in the closed beta have anything special to look forward to down the road. Appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly. I think the first thing is that the closed beta testers, like the yields were very high, and that was kind of a nod to the added, I guess, risk they were taking and the benefit that they were adding to us by testing it, right? But obviously, I guess your question is more specific to the different tiers, right? And if being at like a higher tier will have more benefits. And, obviously, like in crypto, if you've been around for a while, like I'll be fully honest with you, a lot of these situations, a lot of platforms have failed to deliver, right? So we've seen things like master nodes where people got in early and then it kind of died out, right? But I think the goal with us here is to be a bit different in that regard and to keep developing products that have special value, obviously, to people that are at higher tiers who are more, I guess, power users of the platform, right? So, for example, active traders who want to use like an API to trade, to automate their trading strategies. There's certain like rate limits that they will hit at certain levels, and then by staking more, they will have these like reduced. And this is more like for a power user, the higher they are, the better, right? Now, in terms of like the actual yield, I think that was a lot of people might have thought of it more as like a yield farming type situation where this is going to be something very long term where they can keep earning yields. And I think that might not be the best mentality to have. But obviously, the products that we're all designing now, a lot of them are going to be very yield driven in the future. So this isn't going to be like a situation where on the WooX platform, your only opportunity to get yield is only going to be staking. Right now it's at like 4% base rate, and then you can bump it through multipliers. We want to create a lot more products that bring value, and being at these higher tiers will unlock certain privileges within these products. For active traders, there will be more privileges. Things like the free withdrawals each day for being at higher tiers. So there's a lot of things that we want to do right now, and there's a lot of things we're very good at. And so when we combine this, I think that we'll be able to bring value in this situation. So I don't know if that answered your question, but hopefully it brought some clarity there.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. Look forward to it.
Thank you, Wuhan. We have 4 requests, so I guess that question brought up some more questions. I'm just going to go ahead and approve everybody and then see what happens.
Hey guys, David Prince here. Maybe I can ask a quick question.
Yeah, go for it, David.
Great. Hopefully you can hear me okay. And apologies if someone's asked this and I've missed it. I joined a bit late. I was just wondering, based on I guess the vision of Woo and to connect liquidity across chains, across products. I'm kind of curious about the regulatory backdrop in all of this, and and how you're kind of handling and managing, I guess, a growing and emergent space around crypto assets that are becoming more and more under the spotlight of regulators. And I was just wondering how that's being handled in terms of the threat to your vision, but also any kind of opportunities. And aside from the regulatory space, any other kind of emergent threats that are on your radar, or again, opportunities that you're thinking about?
Rand, do you want to jump on this one?
Sure. So we just answered a regulatory question a bit earlier, and the general idea is we have a team in place now to understand. I think it's a 4-person legal team to understand where what the regulations are and what more importantly is what the intent is, right? So then in the U.S. it's a different situation than say in China or in Korea or in South America. So then to understand, so I mean, we have a global map of users who want to trade crypto and invest, and we try to understand what the regulations are for each jurisdiction and what the constraints are, and know what the licenses required. The work that needs to be done to be able to onboard users for those regions. I mean, we want to onboard users for every single region that wants to trade crypto and wants to enjoy the benefits that Wootrade offers. So I mean that's the general strategy. So then it's just understanding each jurisdiction, what are the requirements, what do regulators want, and being compliant, right? I think it's going to be a regulated industry in the future, and every jurisdiction is different. Some are very open, typically the smaller countries, and some are more enclosed. So it's just about understanding, sometimes communicating with the regulators, and just being as compliant as possible. And it's going to be similar even in the very innovative industries like sub-industries like DeFi and NFTs and what's to come, right? And these will get regulated as well, and we will try to anticipate regulations and comply. So I think, I mean, the best choice at the end of the day is to comply with the regulators and to be able to onboard. I mean, the end goal is to onboard as many users as possible who wants to trade or invest or just be active on Wootrade. And then, regulations are not going to stand in the way of that. We'll comply, we'll do KYCs, which we have done now, to be able to allow that to happen.
Thanks, Ryan. That's super helpful. And just given the size and scale of Chronos research, are you kind of playing a role in helping to kind of influence the regulatory landscape at all, or do you have any kind of insights or opinions on the general direction of the regulatory landscape? That's my final question. Thank you.
Honestly, I don't think we're big enough yet. Well, okay, we're pretty big in terms of trading volume, but we're not so in touch with the regulators themselves yet. But that's an aim in the future. As Wootrade grows, there will be more eyeballs and potentially more scrutiny. Like we anticipate working with regulators at times, whether it's preventing criminal activities, whether it's communicating with them about what makes sense in terms of future policies. We're very open about that. We want to establish channels of communication. They can rely on some of our expertise for regulations. I think we're entirely open about that. And the general direction, I don't think I have a great answer currently, and it's different per jurisdiction. Like a country like China, who's kind of very openly against crypto, what they care a lot about is like insulating the economy from what they deem as sort of foreign risks such as such as like U.S. economic. Say the U.S. economy were to crash, that would affect not only Bitcoin price but then equities, right? So then there's a bunch of insulation, even with some of the tech companies for China. So that's a broader strategy, and they care a lot about social unrest. So they don't want their retail customers to take on too much risk. I mean, that's kind of the general reason why they're against crypto. Aside from the sovereign threats that kind of crypto will pose in terms of like stable coins or even Bitcoin. And U.S. is kind of an entirely different story. They care more about taxes and the fact that certain cryptos are securities. I mean, they don't really want to hinder innovation, but they just want to regulate everybody. And then other countries are different, right? So we are actively understanding this, and we have a strategy on user acquisition in terms of which jurisdictions are the most open to crypto, that have the largest amount of traders who are interested. Like, these are some type of things that we're looking for, and we go for users that way. We don't want to disobey laws or be non-compliant and have it bite us in the future.
Yeah, and one final point to add on to what Rand said was, like, we're also hiring very aggressively from people who have experience in, like, the financial, legal, and this side, and I think that's going to help take us to the next level. Having people who understand these regions. So that's one extra point that I'm sure the HR team would be happy to have me add on, in case anyone is curious. Cool. Why don't we move on? It's about 20 minutes left, and I know we just added like 5 people. So if anyone has a question, take it away.
Hi. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah. It might be also a lot, but when will the margin trade be available again? And if that's gonna be available, is it gonna be zero borrowing rate like in closed beta? Thank you.
Oh, thank you for the question. Also, a very good profile picture as well. I think that I'd have to talk to the product team, but I think it's the middle of Q3, which is going to be late July or early August, that we're going to see some of that coming back. Don't quote me on that. I don't want to get in trouble here. But yeah, I would say August would be like when that would definitely have come back, because obviously that's a feature that's very important to traders. Will it be zero fee like the beta? No, it will not. Obviously, otherwise that just encourages users to take unnecessary risks and borrow for longer than it's not a very good system to have. So we're gonna there's interest fees there. There's cost to us, obviously, but they'll be very low, and that's something that I mentioned earlier with like the futures. Like we will be competitive or better than other platforms.
Hello, can you hear me? Can I ask a question as well?
Yeah, go for it.
Good. So I was just wondering about the timing of reducing the returns on. I know you guys want to limit the inflation risk that the yield was providing. But don't you think that, I mean, going from about 30% to 4% actually kind of like kneecaps the ability for us to be able to recruit other people, being that we are still in beta. I mean, even if it is open beta right now, and it reduces the demand for the Woo token itself. I mean, I mean, it would have been okay to drop this when we are really going, live, and also maybe we have something else that brings it like a hook to people. For example, the airdrops. Maybe if we were getting close towards the airdrops, then we can reduce this yield to almost zero. It doesn't matter, because then you have another demand driver that will bring people into the platform.
Right. Yeah, this is a good question, and I appreciate you bringing this up, and I also can understand the angle that you're bringing here, because obviously like high yields is a very attractive proposition in the crypto space. It's more of what happens after the high yields that is the concern, because when yields are really high and markets are really strong, this is a combination for success. When the markets are not so strong like they are now, and when the yield, the inflation is too high, the opposite happens. It's very unhealthy. And then, I mean, we can talk about maybe the yields of 4% aren't a huge attraction for people who aren't necessarily users of the platform. But I mean, having a token price that is, you've seen some of the other charts out there, right? I mean, if you go into like some of the Solana projects, not to single anyone out by name, but you can really see projects that really went for it at the beginning and then didn't have a plan to sustain it, right? So we're trying to be very sustainable, and this isn't something that we came up with in the break room one day. We have some very smart financial people on the team who kind of ran through a bunch of different scenarios and models, and this is what we came with. And we knew the community would not be very pleased with this, but I think it's more from a long-term and sustainability thing. Having a healthier token economy is probably the most attractive thing that a cryptocurrency can have, in addition to decent products. So we feel like we have the products. So now it's just about managing the token. And I think, I totally get it. I understand where you're coming from. Like I'm also a cryptocurrency buyer. My eyes light up when I go on a new platform and I see huge APYs. But the flip side of that is I might not be the kind of person that's going to use the platform long term and get value out of it, right? So the people who are after zero fees, these people will come for zero fees, regardless of whether there's high yields or not. And at the beginning, that might be the person that we really need to really develop a user base of the products, to give us good feedback, to build a strong community who's going to be there no matter what the market conditions are, right? So these are all things that we want, and things that we discussions with the community, feedback from advisors type people, right? I mean, this was a very big decision. So I hope that answers your question.
It does, but can I ask a follow-up question? Because from a strategic point of view, I don't see why this should be mutually exclusive, right? I mean, traditionally you have a lot of users on, let's say, Binance or these other big exchanges. Why should it be mutually exclusive? Because the people that you are really targeting right now can still be the target, right?
Right, but I don't think that, like, when Binance was growing in their growth phase, I don't think they had a lot of these high yield products. I mean, yield farming wasn't even a thing at the time. So it's a slightly different situation. But we're still taking this under consideration. So like, we really appreciate coming on here and providing this feedback, and we'll keep looking at the situation.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions?
All right.
I do.
So, can you guys share some thoughts on whether you think lower fee or zero fees, or by providing the deepest liquidity in the market, will be enough for to become the moat of Woo to retain users in 5 or 10 years? And and how can Wootrade become so good at solving this problem that maybe in 5 years down the road that other players just give up on trying to compete with you guys?
Yeah, you broke up there a little bit. I hope it's not my signal. But yeah, I kind of understand your question, where you're coming from. I think, will it be enough? No. I mean, I don't think just being zero fee and having a product will not be a big enough moat, right? And so that's why having a really strong community is very important, right? Because community members are much stickier than users. That's one thing. And like Rand touched on earlier, like the ability to evolve. This is huge, right? So you look at the products, like, even let's talk about exchanges that were really popular 5 years ago. A lot of them aren't even in the picture anymore, either through security weaknesses or just poor management, right? So that would be the challenge going forward, to do, you look at what Binance did, where they pulled the Binance Smart Chain that came out of nowhere, from like none of the competitors caught on, and then they all tried to follow them, right? So these are some of the things you have to learn from in the industry to keep improving. But honestly, we have a huge advantage from the start, just by having Cronus research and that level of sophistication on the trading side. that's something that gives us a huge head start, and other people can replicate that. But as long as we innovate and stay ahead, I think that we have the resources to be very highly competitive in this industry.
Let me just add a point. I think that's a very good question. And the general ethos of Wootrade is to just give more value to the users. So, I mean, zero fees is a very direct way of doing this, right? I mean, most of our customers right now are industry professionals like the exchanges, and they're very sensitive about these type of fees, and they're using Wootrade. And they were our first customers. So then it says something about our liquidity and the zero fees that is valuable for even the pros, right? And even right now, WooX is servicing the pros. So I think that's the general ethos for Wootrade, and we'll do something similar in terms of yield. I think that's just tackling some of the larger problems that we see in the crypto world, coming from traditional finance ourselves, where the trading costs are too high. And I think more now that liquidity is scattered, trading costs are high. We're solving that problem now, and very very soon we'll be solving the problem of yield. And that yield is scattered. A lot of yield is unsustainable and unstable, and we're going to try to solve that problem, and then to give more of that value to users as well, to give them more yield. I think so. That's just the general ethos. We want to give as much to users and token holders as possible, and everyone's going to be aligned in the same page. Everyone's interests are aligned, right? Because our token holders, the team, the foundation, everybody has tokens, so it makes sense for us to do this. And I think that's ultimately the moat. It starts off with one thing. I think in these tech giants and industry leaders, they don't have a moat right off the bat, right? It's typically one thing, and our one thing currently is liquidity, and later on we believe will be yield. And as that attracts our community, and they realize the value that we help provide to them, and they become supporters. We have a wonderful community now for very strong supporters. Then the community becomes a moat, right? Because everyone, this is blockchain, everyone's a shareholder, turbo holder, and enjoy the benefits of the products and of the ecosystem.
Thank you. Great answers. Sure. Very hopeful for the future.
Sure.
All right, BBM, I think you had a question.
Yes, I do. Actually, two of them. When will we have better transparency when it comes to generating fees and revenue, and the relationship with the partners you onboard, if they stake Woot tokens or if they just pay the fees? And the second question is, do you have any targets by the end of the year or a year from now in terms of this revenue? Thank you.
Ren, I think I'll let you take this one. It's 8:54, so there's a few more questions coming up. Maybe we can make these very concise answers.
Okay. So with revenues, I think we try to be as transparent as possible with the buybacks. In terms of, we can't be super transparent about the 2B customers on Wootrade, because a lot of them want privacy. We can't just reveal. We'll reveal the ones who wants to be revealed, right? Like Hotbit, Gate IO, MXC. These guys want to be revealed. Some do not want to be revealed, and we have to respect that, right? So it's tough to reveal who all the customers are. A lot of things that you can, like, there's more transparency in a lot of the DeFi products or the DeFi cooperations or products that we have and will have. So with our WooFi pools on BSC, some of those transactions and revenues. It's actually quite transparent if you bother trying to figure it out on chain.
Ryan, about the tokens, maybe you could say something about the Zealous Rhinos 2.0.
Right. So we have an like a 2B staking program called Zealous Rhinos, as some people are aware, and it's where the institution, the 2B clients, they stake tokens to get 0 fees or even negative fees. So a new version of that is going to come online pretty soon, and we'll talk about it. Yeah. So then that's the update for the staking one. But the details are going to come.
Yeah, and just to add one point, like it's always been the 2B clients can either pay fees normally or they can stake tokens to get 0 fees or negative fees, and a lot of them are electing to pay fees, which when they're not staking tokens and they're paying fees, the fees just become revenue, which is used for the buyback. So that's actually in some ways a better situation for the long-term Woo ecosystem, because that once they're burned, they're gone forever. So some clients haven't been staking, which their behavior, it's very difficult to predict what they're going to do. But this is something that we're incorporating into the new model, the new program that Rand just discussed there. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Anyone else have a question?
Hey, Ben, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear.
So my question is actually for you, Ran. I'm just wondering, what's the expectations for onboarding institutional clients by the end of the year?
Do you mean the number or the volumes?
Both.
That's a good question. So right now we have about 35 institutional clients to Wootrade. That's up from 20 from a few months ago. I think we're aiming to onboard at least double that. I think by the end of the year, and I think now we're getting more approached by institutional type of traders who are onboarding, and we're actively hiring business development team members from all over the world. So that's something that we're going to be very active in. And with WooX, which is going to have its official launch pretty soon, we expect a lot more professional traders or more retail traders to join as well. And I think we'd expect something. The volume is coming from a few angles. It's from the institutions, which which they're either what we call brokers or aggregators, which are a lot of the exchanges out there, right? Who kind of aggregate the retail volume and then sends it to Wootrade. There's also more institutional traders like the quant guys who we haven't actively pursued. We've pursued more the institutional guys, and now I think we're at the stage where we're about to pursue these types of direct traders, and they can either join the Rhino program or they can trade via API on UX. So these traders are going to bring a lot more volume, and the reason we haven't onboarded them or pursued them before was so the quant traders have the highest standards in terms of what they want and need from an exchange, and we've tested out Wootrade with our internal strategies first to make sure that at least we meet all the requirements for Chronos, and now it's at a stage we'll expand these types. So I think you can expect more of these types of traders being onboarded, and also for WEX, obviously a lot more retail, and then for DeFi, right? DeFi, there's going to be more flow coming in as well. So we're quite optimistic going towards the end of the year.
Okay, that's perfect. That answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. All right, we got two more questions, Morph and Tom, and I'm going to cut it off after that. So, Morph, do you want to? Tom, actually, you can go ahead first because I see you're unmuted.
Yes, I have a questions and possible futures competitors like the larger exchange like Binance. I guess if they recognize you guys had much success in zero fees and deep liquidity, wouldn't that be something that they might implement in their exchange? And if so, how do you guys evolve and stay competitive at that point? I think this question might have been asked before, but I'd just like to ask now.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So actually, we're kind of hoping for that, right? Because zero fees is actually very difficult to implement, right? I think every exchange have thought about this. Should we go into? I guess you can call it a price war, where people lower fees down to zero or what. But then exchanges, they profit through to their fees. I mean, that most of an exchange's revenue comes from the trading fees. And for us, it's different, right? Because we're trading driven, where the market makers we can combine liquidity, we can arbitrage between different liquidity venues around the world, and we can connect liquidity across CeFi and DeFi. So we're able to deliver better liquidity and deeper liquidity at a fraction of the cost for exchanges. I mean, exchanges are heavily dependent on these fees, and we're not. So for them to lower fees down to zero, it would be very detrimental to their business. I think the P&L. I mean, a lot of these guys have much higher overheads and employ thousands of people. So if they were to do that, it's actually very detrimental to the business itself. So I don't think that's something they would do. And even if they were to consider that route, they would look for someone like us to be able to help them, right? So we have a very cooperative relationship with exchanges. If they wanted to lower fees, not necessarily down to zero, but be lower than a lot of the competitors, they can talk to us. They can stake Woo tokens, send flow our way, and even get Woo token rebates, right? So we're prepared for that. And, I think some of what you're describing will happen. And I think that's what's actually going to happen. They're more likely to actually work with us. If they choose to lower fees down to zero, it's very detrimental to the average exchange business.
Yeah, not just in terms of they don't have any revenue to the point where they might actually be losing money. So it's very difficult to do. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thanks, Tom. Morph, you're up. Last question. Make it a good one.
Hi, thanks. I see you have joined the DeFi Alliance. I was just wondering if you could touch on this, maybe outcomes that you are hoping to achieve through joining the Alliance. It's a positive thing for the whole space, an emerging industry that projects are coming together to overcome challenges. I just wondered, could you tell us maybe any outcomes that have been achieved or any exciting partnerships or projects that may be coming out of this? Thanks.
Sure. DeFi Alliance has been great for us. We're able to connect with a lot of the industry leaders in DeFi across the world. And yesterday there was a roadshow by DeFi Alliance members where they are able to, they had a roadshow of different types of DeFi projects, some mature, some less mature, and they pitched. They did pitches and breakout rooms for DeFi Alliance members, and that's great. It was a learning experience. We spoke to a lot of great projects. There's going to be opportunities to invest, via Woo Ventures, and it's been great. So it's just a great network. And for us, the purpose is to expand the network, and help build the ecosystem. Right. I mean, Woo Ventures can invest in projects that are early stage, and we can provide liquidity to decentralized exchanges, and we can activate different types of utilization for the Woo token with a lot of these projects. We can incorporate them into what we're doing in the DeFi space, and to just expand the whole DeFi ecosystem and build strategic partnerships with a lot of these projects and the funds and traders. So it's for the ecosystem, and it's been very helpful so far.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. All right. It is, unfortunately, it's very late here, and we've gone over our hour, so I think we're going to cut it here. But if you have any more questions we didn't get to, hop into the Discord channel or the Telegram channel, or just add us on Twitter, and we'll get through everything. We really appreciate all you tuning in today to listen and to ask questions. So thank you very much, and have a good day or good night wherever you are. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes. Bye.
Thank you.